Republicans in the House of Representatives released the so-called Comey memos, the memos that FBI Director Jim Comey had created after his various meetings with Donald Trump, because Jim Comey thought that this was so bizarre that he needed to have it documented contemporaneously. These memos were released and proved that pretty much everything that James Comey has been saying is exactly what he said at the time that these things happened in these memos. Now, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the memos got released, and at the time I focused on one specific part. Everyone else is talking about Russian hookers and so forth, and the conversation that Trump seemed to be obsessed with, but I kind of honed in on this part. Where Trump seemed to talk about jailing journalists. So in the actual memos, Comey said, "I was eager to find leakers." They were talking about the people who were leaking things from the FBI to the media. He said, Comey said, "I said I was eager to find leakers and would like to nail one on the door as a message. I said something about it being difficult." And Trump replied that we need to go after the reporters, and referred to the fact that 10 or 15 years ago, we put them in jail to find out what they know, and it worked. He mentioned Judy Miller by name, says Comey. That's the New York Times reporter who had helped the George W. Bush administration leak the name of a covert CIA operative, Valerie Plame. Comey goes on to write, "I explained that I was a fan of pursuing leaks aggressively, but that going after reporters was tricky for legal reasons and because DOJ tends to approach it conservatively." Trump replied by telling me to talk to Sessions, that would be Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and see what we can do about being more aggressive. I told him I would speak to the Attorney General. Then later on in the same memo, the president came back to it again. Comey says, "The president then wrapped up our conversation by returning to the issue of finding leakers. I said something about the value of putting a head on a pike as a message. He replied by saying it may involve putting reporters in jail." And then he uses direct quotes to say they spend a couple of days in jail, make a new friend, and they are ready to talk, quoting the President of the United States, repeatedly talking about throwing journalists into jail. So this is not just a campaign technique that he uses to gin up his base, that Donald Trump uses. He means it. He was talking in private conversation with the director of the FBI before he then fired the director of the FBI. He was talking to the director of the FBI repeatedly about throwing reporters in jail. Imagine if there was, Obama was talking about throwing journalists in jail behind closed doors and this came out. Anyway, I just want to remind you of that. And then let me move to this. From BuzzFeed. Since the fall, the U.S. Department of Justice has been overhauling its manual, the U.S. Attorney's Manual, for federal prosecutors. They write, Attorney General Jeff Sessions' tough on crime policies out, a section titled Need for Free Press and Public Trial. References to the department's work on racial gerrymandering is gone. Language about limits on prosecutorial power has been edited down, BuzzFeed reports. The changes include new sections that underscore Sessions' focus on religious liberty and the Trump administration's effort to crack down on government leaks. There's new language admonishing prosecutors not to share classified information and directing them to report any and all contacts with the media to the DOJ. The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, apparently led this charge to update the U.S. Attorney's Manual, which traditionally provides policies and guidance on DOJ legal work. The manual hadn't seen a major update since 1997, according to BuzzFeed. They tracked the online changes that were made to the manual and by comparing them to the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine version of the manual. And in the manual's Media Contacts Policy section, a subsection titled need for free press and public trial was deleted entirely from the manual. According to BuzzFeed's review of the new manual, the new version, that section, which had been in the manual since 1988, had used to say, quote, careful weight must be given in each case to the constitutional requirements of a free press and public trials, as well as the right of the people in a constitutional democracy to have access to information about the conduct of law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and courts consistent with the individual rights of the accused. The manual used to say, recognition should be given to the rights of the public to be informed on matters that can affect enactment or enforcement of public laws or the development or change of public policy. That has all been removed from the Department of Justice's internal U.S. Attorney's Manual, what they use as guidance during prosecutions. Parts of the rest of the media contact section was also edited to include new language about determining whether to release information to the public, including weighing the, quote, right of the public to have access to information with other factors. Also, according to BuzzFeed, by the way, part of the manual addressing the Justice Department's civil rights work was revised. A section about the Voting Rights Act and redistricting and racial gerrymandering was changed. The previous version had said the voting section defends from unjustified attacked redistricting plans designed to provide minority voters fair opportunities to elect candidates of their choice and endeavors to achieve racially fair results. Where courts find that redistricting plans constitute unconstitutional racial gerrymanders. That section is also gone from the DOJ's new version of the manual. But I want to focus specifically today on the fact that the U.S. Department of Justice appears to be doing Trump's bidding here by limiting access to facts for the media, removing, as I said, that entire section about the need for a free press. Of course, that doesn't change the First Amendment of the Constitution itself. That is still there. But it does give you an idea of what this Department of Justice, at least, thinks about the need to prioritize the needs of a free press in this country.